Hello guys, in this video we are going to discuss how you're going to read newspaper from just an information consumer to an administrative thinker level. Okay, so that's the topic of the day. So I'll tell you what all things need to be taken care when you read newspaper and everything. So this is what the topic. So how to read newspaper for UPSC. So let's start with the biggest myth, right? Okay. So how many newspapers you read when you start? In fact, when I started also the preparation, I remember I read Hindu, I read Indian Express, I read Business Standard. So at that time, it was told that you read a couple of newspapers and then one economy-related newspaper also. So three newspapers, and by the time I complete this newspaper, it's almost 4 or 5 hours. Then there is time left for study. So all these need to be addressed. Okay. See, every day I have seen, of course, everyone is reading news. Lakhs of people are reading newspaper. Forget about the aspirants in general. Lakhs of students are reading newspaper. Newspaper is available to everyone, and that's the cheapest source of actually consuming. And especially when online things are available, everyone is reading it, right? Remote village people are reading it. Students in Delhi people are reading it. Future civil servants are reading it. Future entrepreneurs are reading it, and the information is the same. Headlines are the same, articles are the same, but still after few years some people become administrators, some become policymakers and leaders, but some others remain exactly same place where they have started. The question is, or why is it so? Because the difference is not the access to information, the difference is how that information is processed. And I have told about this in many cases when we discussed about ethics also, how to use information and how to apply that and everything. See, newspaper reading is not just about gathering information. Newspaper reading is about building a way of thinking. And that's exactly what I want to discuss today. So let's start with the biggest myth. In fact, people think that more newspaper, if I read Hindu, along with the Times of India or Indian Express, plus if I also read Business Standard or Economic Times, I'm complete, or it's a better preparation, or I'll get more facts, and more facts means a better preparation, or more current affairs I'll get means it's a better preparation. But that's actually a mistake. See, the issue is not about the quantity. The issue is quality of processing. Two students, they're reading the same newspaper. One remember the fact, the other develop judgment, right? So who's most likely to succeed in UPSC? The one who developed the judgments, right? That he is able to think properly, because it's not just about reproducing the facts. It's about judgment. It's about thinking. It's about application. And that's something which need to be reflected in your paper, and that's what actually getting rewarded. So that is why the second category will be having a higher chance to succeed in UPSC. So let's try to understand what UPSC is actually testing. And then you will, before I tell you what to read from the newspaper, let's try to understand what UPSC is actually expecting. We do the reverse engineering and it is going to be very easy. See, whenever the students reading newspaper, they often assume UPSC want information, right? Forget about this when it comes to current affair. In any case, content is there, but it's not about information. UPSC is testing something much deeper. There are four abilities that I would say that is continuously getting evaluated. So first one, let's start with the first one. That is, okay. So these are the four different dimensions that we need to discuss, out of which, if we start with this one, structural thinking. Okay. The question is, can you understand, right? Like if one news is there, if something happened, so why something happened, not just what happened. So beyond what happened, you need to go and understand why this happened. That's what I mean by structural thinking. And can you identify the system behind that event? Can you identify the institutional failure behind that? So all these are connected with all your GS papers and also your ethics paper as well. And can you identify the governance gap behind that event? So this is what I mean by structural thinking. Then multi-stakeholder thinking. See, at the same time, can you simultaneously think about citizens, government, the impact on citizens, the impact on government, the business, vulnerable groups, future generations, or do you see, every issue from only one perspective? You just see what happened and leave it, or are you able to connect it with multiple stakeholders? Are you able to think structurally, right? These are the things. So civil servants, as a civil servant, you have to constantly balance this all competing interest. So in fact, when you start reading newspaper during preparation time itself, it should train your ability. And that's exactly what is checked in the mains also and during interview also. And third one, that's the judgment part. That's the informed judgment, right? Do you have an opinion on what happened? You understood what happened, you understood why it happened, you understood the stakeholders. Now, do you have an opinion on this? More importantly, can you defend it? Not a copied opinion from the editorial, not a coaching class opinion, or not the opinion that I'm giving to you, not a social media opinion, not a WhatsApp opinion, not you know any such opinion which you get from outside. Your own recent opinion. Can you have that informed judgment? Can you defend that? This is what UPSC increasingly giving value for. Okay. Now, next one. I'm actually not feeling good today. Intellectual humility. Can you accept that? Right? Most public policy problems do not have perfect solution. Right? Can you see trade-offs and can you understand the complexity? Can you appreciate the competing viewpoints? And see, when you talk about the mature thinking, that always recognize the shades of gray. So can you find all these dimensions? So these are the four skills which I want you to have when you are reading newspaper. It's not just consumption of the content or information. It's not just about mugging up the facts, or it's not just about knowing what happened today. It is much more than that. It is about why that happened, what are the stakeholders involved in that, am I able to take an informed judgment with that, and can I have that intellectual humility to accept the other side of that also. Right. So, see, to develop these abilities, we can have a small framework. Right. When you see any questions, I'll give you this framework. There's a very popular one among the aspirants during my preparation time. Also, my mentees have told this framework to read the newspaper. Every teacher mostly teach you the same SCAN framework. There's a practical way to study an article. In fact, you might be knowing it because I learned it from my teacher in 2014, 2012. I think I started preparation in 2010. So that time onwards, it has been there in the market, of course. So you should be know because every teacher teaches the same, right? If there is a session on reading newspaper, then this one must be discussed. So this is like this. S. Okay. So there's a situation. So what you need to do is identify the structural problem behind the event. So you need to ask, what is the structural problem behind that event? So if something happened, what's the structural problem behind the event? And most students actually stop at the event because something happened, you stop at the event. But that's not the case. You have to identify. So that means you are going into the context. That's what I mean, the situation. So top candidates actually move beyond that particular event. For example, farmer suicide. So surface level is what you read a news, Vidarbha, Maharashtra, farmer committed suicide, and immediate reason you come to the conclusion that the crop failure or debt burden. But the deeper question, there are much more questions to be answered. Why farmers dependent on informal credit? If there is a debt burden, is it because of formal source or informal source? Now, majority of the case, in fact, 99% of the case, it is informal. Now, why farmers depend upon the informal credit? Why that is the problem? How can you solve that problem? Why crop insurance is not helping them? If crop failure is the problem, why there is no despite having all these insurance things, why it is not helping them? What are the issues behind that? Why institutional credits are not reaching to farmers despite all these facilities, banks, and mechanisms? And why does risk remain so high, especially for this poor farmers or agriculture sector? So UPSC is interested in these layers. So if there is a question on farmer suicide, you should not only talk about farmer suicide and the statistics. Last year, this many number of suicide is there. These are the regions, and it is mainly because of crop failure and because of debt burden. No, beyond that you have to go. Why there is no institutional credit? Why people are depending upon the non-institutional credit? Why there is no such, despite having insurance schemes, it is weak, and why they are not getting that benefit during the crop failure? All these, why in bumper production, why they are not getting the price? So you need to think in layers. So whenever you read a newspaper or news article, what you need to do is you need to think like, first of all, yeah, this is a order that you need to think. What is the event, right? This is the structure, event, and then you take or understand the immediate cause of the event. Why? Immediate cause. And then there will be a situational or a structural problem. Structural problem. For example, when I told about farmer suicide, that is the event. You assume that that's the event. Immediate cause, you say the crop failure or debt burden. Now the structural problem, that is where this institutional credit, insurance issues and all those are coming, right? And then you talk about the systemic cause. Can you identify these dimensions when you're reading the newspaper? This is what I mean by situational analysis. This habit alone that can transform your analytical ability. And what you need in UPSC is analytical ability. Whether in any of the GS papers or your ethics paper, you need to go beyond the surface level understanding. This is what my toppers do, and this is exactly what I have taught my mentees. And when you interact or when you watch their podcast, I'll attach that below this. You will understand that. This is what you need to do. If you need to have that kind of top rank, or if you need to have that kind of understanding, that level of answer, if you need to write, or if you want to become a real UPSC material, this is how. So this is the first step, right? Situational, situation. Now the scan in that, the next one. So this example I've already discussed. Now comes to the, so we were talking about scan, right? Situation was done. Now consequences. Now you need to ask who's affected, right? So see, a good administrator never sees only the policy. A good administrator see the people affected by the policy. Who's getting affected, how's getting affected, and how many is getting affected, and all these will be connected here. For example, let's say recent one, GST on health insurance is removed. So let's talk about this. GST on health insurance. So now who are the stakeholders here? For example, let's talk about middle class families. So what is the main problem? The premium burden is the problem, right? So if GST is added to that, the premium burden is increasing, 20% you need to pay. So the way you take insurance, the number of people who take insurance may come down. But when that 20% is reduced, the chances of people taking more is higher. And that means more coverage and more protection. Cool. So this is how you need to take it. And senior citizen. For senior citizen also, if GST is there, insurance is becoming expensive. Already for senior citizens, the premium is higher. Along with that, and also if you see, GST is higher for senior citizens because the premium is higher for them, and it is coming down. So vulnerable section, they have to pay a higher premium plus higher GST. That will push them away not to take insurance. So what is better? What is the best option? You can remove GST so that the penetration will be much better, right? Which is something very essential also. Okay, so senior citizen, their issues again, insurance become expensive. Small business also, if you see, they have to give that group insurance. That becomes the cost is going to be higher, so they prefer not to take it. And the insurance companies, if you see, for them also it is not good. Market growth will be slow, right? So if GST is removed, then growth will be higher for the companies also. And see, for government, short-term revenue will rise in terms of GST, but long-term healthcare burden may increase. Right? This now everyone majority will go with insurance also. So the government's burden will actually come down. So this is what I mean by multi-stakeholder thinking. So when you think about the consequences, this is what you can do. Right? So you develop a 360-degree view on any event. Every issue need to be examined from like this vertical ladder you can go, right? Or you can go with first start with citizen, and then you can start individual, family, group, society, nation, national level, like that you can go. Or in this policy related cases, or when it comes to reading newspaper, citizen level, you can see through citizens lens. I'm looking at the lens. I'm looking at the perspective of different stakeholders. And then you need to look at government side, government lens. So how governments it is going to get affected, or in the GST case itself, I told you how different types of citizens is getting affected, how government is also getting affected. Right? Now, after government, you have to look at economy side. Economic lens you need to see. Most importantly, you will have to see social lens. How insurance is giving social protection also. And you also have to look at short term, what is the benefit, and long term, what is the benefit or disadvantage. For example, I told you, when it comes to government, short term, there is a GST collection, revenue benefit is there. But long term, there is a big healthcare burden you'll have to take, because these people don't have insurance. So you'll have to take care of the burden of these people. You'll have to make them, that facilities and everything to take care of their health. In that will be much more investment, right? So now comes to next one. I think we have already discussed this. Just note down the citizens, government, business, economy, vulnerable group, and everything. So you'll have to look at this different perspective. And the scan A. Okay, now most of the students again stop by identifying the situation and consequences. See, you people will stop by understanding the problems, but as an administrator, I'm telling you, we are reading newspaper as an administrative thinker. We are building our ability to think by reading newspaper. We are trying to connect everything when we are reading newspaper, because newspaper give that continuity also, newspaper give that flow also, newspaper give that information also. More the information, more logical your brain will also be to get things connected. So how administrators think, they cannot just understand the problems, they also have to ask what else can be done, right? For example, let's talk about the subsidy. Okay, so subsidy reform. Now there are a lot of problems, right? Fiscal deficit and all those. What are the possible alternative to subsidies? Whether you need to continue the existing system. For example, if you continue the existing system, for the existing system, what are the pros, what are the cons, what are the positives, what are the negatives? The pros, the positive is there is a security when you're giving subsidy and all. But whether minimum support price, that's a subsidy, so there is a security. But at the same time, there is a fiscal burden on the government. Now the alternate, direct benefit transfer. Okay, so here also you look at it. What are the pros? What are the cons? So when it comes to DBT, the positive is the efficiency, right? But the cons, the negative is inflation and the exclusion risk possibilities are there. Many people may get excluded. Or if you look at better targeting, then what are the pros? The reduced leakage will be the positive, but at the same time, again, exclusion errors will be there. And if you look at pilot-based reform, what are the pros? It is evidence-driven, but the cons, slow implementation. So you see, you can notice something very important here. Anything if you take, there are positives, there are negatives. So is there any perfect solution with any of, if I say direct benefit transfer, there is a problem, right? So anything that I am talking about, there is a positive, at the same time there is a negative. So is there a perfect solution for anything? There is no perfect solution. There are only better solutions. And that's how you also need to understand things, and that's how you need to evaluate. That is how the government also working. So there is, when you're writing math answers or in your objective paper, you have one which is right, but here there is nothing which is right or wrong. Everything can be right, everything can be wrong, right? So in fact everything is right, but what is better is the question. And to know that, to need to understand that, you need to think beyond what normal people think. Okay, so you need to understand the trade-offs. This is one of the most important skill that you need to have when it comes to UPSC. Every policy have benefits. Every policy have its cost also. Every policy, every decision have its gains, and there will be some sacrifice also. And as a candidate, as someone who's preparing for this exam, if you can understand the trade-off between these benefits and the cost, or the gains and the sacrifices, you will be able to write the better answers. That is why I told you informed judgment is required. Informed judgment means you have taken a judgment or an opinion that you should be able to substantiate it. Only if you can understand this cost benefit analysis, or the trade-off between these gains and the sacrifices, or benefits and the cost, or the pros and the cons, or the positives and the negative, you will be able to do that. Cool. Now what's next? Scan SCA is done. Compare alternatives before choosing. Yeah, the next step, right? That is how you will also conclude way forward. Next step. See, this is actually where administrators different from just commentators. Sorry, guys. The commentators, what they do, they just explain the problems. But administrators, they solve the problem. They ask what should be done next. Yes, this is a situation. What should be done next? And that is how you also need to think. So, see, in that case, a weak answer is like this: government should improve implementation. See, anyone can come and tell that, improve your implementation, or government should improve awareness. If you look at your answer, why your answer is not scoring much? Because what you are writing as a next step or way forward, you're writing same for everything. Government should improve implementation, government should improve awareness, government should improve strengthen monitoring. Do you want to tell government to strengthen monitoring or improve awareness and all? Conduct this campaigns, that campaigns. These are generic statement. Even when you're writing, see, take this as an answer writing session also, not just a newspaper understanding. So I'm talking about next step. So what you need to think is you need to have a strong answer for this. So for example, if farmer suicide is rising, right? So you need to identify high risk district and create the vulnerable farmer database. Which sector? Then you coordinate with the banks. Identify institutional, non-institutional problem. Make sure institutional credit is available to them, right? Insurance, again. So temporary debt relief you try to provide. Improve insurance outreach to them. Strengthen the institutional credit. So you can notice the difference. Rather than writing improve this, improve that, improve awareness, improve monitoring, improve implementation, now you are going into the right problem and you are giving the right solution rather than making a generic solution. So this where you will develop, and when this is what UPSC answer requires. How will you develop this habit of thinking? When you're reading the newspaper, right? Okay, that's the most important things that I need to discuss. Now comes to action oriented thinking. Every recommendation should include who, what, how, and by when. And this is how good governance answers are built. So, see, there are three types of articles when you're reading newspapers. There will be policy related articles, for example, new government schemes, welfare reforms, economic initiatives. So, you need to ask questions like what problems is being solved here? Who's getting benefit? What implementation challenges exist? How will success be measured? So, that's what I mean by who, what, how, by when. So the example that I've given you, what problem is it going to solve? Who's getting benefited out of it? What are the implementation challenges? And how the success will be measured. Right now, for example, let's say any article on crisis. It could be flood, it could be heat waves, it could be fire accident, it could be industrial disaster, right? What the questions you need to ask? Who failed? Again, who, right? And then which institutions were responsible? What preventive mechanism was missing? What preventive mechanism was missing? And how can such reoccurrence be prevented? So these are the questions that you need to ask. Then there can be opinion-based articles, right? In fact, many students skip editorial, they just read the news. Editorial, if you're skipping, that's a big mistake because you also will find a way to make opinions and informed judgments, how to substantiate everything you will get to know. You'll get a lot of facts also and points also, which is required. Editorials teach reasoning. It's not information. Information you get from the news, information you get from the current affair compilation also. So even if you skip newspaper for facts, that you can cover it from the compilations which you get. But editorials are rich source of building your reasoning capacity. So it's not just information. You need to ask yourself what argument is being made here, what evidence is actually supporting that, how the author is using that evidence to support this, and what counter arguments exist. and how the author is coming to a conclusion. When you're reading this for 1 year, forget about 1 year, 90 days, you will also develop that habit and you will also be able to do in a much better way. So I've already explained this crisis article, opinion article, right? Editorials. Okay, now how to practice? Every day, what you can do is you can choose one editorial, one article, and you can write also from that. Write four lines importantly. As I told you, the scan. Right? You read the newspaper, you read the editorial. This is how you need to practice. So you need to write one line about the situation. What is the structural problem discussed in that? Second, you write about the consequences, who's affected, right? And then alternatives, what other options exist, and then next step, what should be done. So how much time it will take for one article? Reading may take 6-7 minutes. This may take 3-4 minutes, 2-3 minutes, 10 minutes, you're done. So you got this situation, consequences, and this is how you should be building your newspaper reading skill. 10 minutes it takes. But over 1 year, if you do it, you've gone through, 1 day, 3 articles, 1 year, 1,000 articles, and you have 1,000 situational analysis, 1,000 consequences, 1,000 alternatives and next steps. Who can stop you then? Failure cannot even come to you in that case. So you have 1,000, even if you do 365 articles, 365 analytical exercises you're doing, just one editorial if you're working on, and 365 opportunities you are getting to build administrative thinking. It's not that simple, right? So this is what I told you. Now see what common mistakes people do. You read multiple newspapers. Guys, depth matters, not the breadth. That we can cover the facts from current affairs, magazines, compilation. You collect facts. Facts without analysis have limited value. If you cannot apply it, if you cannot think on that, if you cannot interlink, there is of no use. That you can again collect from current affair compilation easily. You will get every facts. And missing editorial is the biggest mistake. What you need is you need to read the editorial. I see my way of reading newspapers. I just look at the headlines only, just to know what happened, and then I read the editorials and I get to know the depth of it. If there is a major something happened, it will definitely be there in the editorial on that day or the next day. And next mistake is reading without writing. Just follow this framework as I told you. Just write these 4 lines. Situation, consequences, alternative, and the next step, the way forward. That's it about that. You're done, right? So again, students read using only that prelims lens. But newspaper, it's not mainly for prelims. It's for mains and interview. Current affair, how many questions you get in prelims? It's for mains and it's for your interview. That's the rank decider. See, for example, I'll give you one more example. Global Hunger Index. Average aspirant, they memorize rank, they memorize data, and moves on. So what an administrative thinker will do. Or UPSC material, I would say, the student, what he will do, he will understand the situation. Let's talk about the scan. How it works here. Why does hunger exist? Why does hunger persist? Not exist, persist, despite all this. What are the consequences? So first you will ask why situation. You will ask consequences. Who is, suffering the most? Okay. Now, what are the alternatives? Universal PDS or targeted support? Or then think about it. What is the next step? What should I do as a district magistrate? So, in fact, that article, that actually becomes a governance exercise rather than a fact-based exercise. So that is how you should be reading newspaper. So newspaper reading will also help you for your personality development. How it is going to help you personality development? So I've already explained how to apply SCAN here. The majority of the student think personality development starts before the interview, or you need to prepare before the interview. That's wrong. Personality development starts from day one, because your opinion start building from day one. Your informed judgment is what your opinion. That should start from day one when you're reading newspaper. Right? So don't think that after mains I will do that. Every article, you analyze, it will improve a lot of things within you. It will improve your judgment capacity. It will improve your reasoning capacity. It will improve your defending capacity. It will definitely improve your knowledge. It will improve your logical connectedness. It will improve your perspective. It will improve your maturity. And most importantly, it will improve your communication skill. Right? And over time, all these will become visible in your written answers, in your discussions, in your interviews, and ultimately in your leadership role also. Because when you have knowledge, it will be reflected. So newspaper reading is not merely a preparation. It is ultimately your personality building. Okay, so guys, use this every article. Situation, consequences, alternative, and the way next step. Always use this in any article and you're done. That's all what you need to do. So whenever you read the newspaper, don't ask just what happened. Don't just be interested in knowing what happened. Ask why did it happen? Situation. Ask the consequence. Who's affected? Alternative. What alternatives exist? So just follow this. Not just what happened, that anyway you will know why it happened. Who affected the most? What alternative? And what is the next step? Right, that single shift if you can make, that transform your newspaper reading from just an information consumption to the one which I've started off with. You will go to that level of administrative thinker. So guys, the newspaper is one of the most powerful tools which are available to you as an aspirant, because it's not only giving you information. Information is required for everything. It gives you that information. It also teaches you how to think. Every morning or any time when you pick the newspaper, always remember you are not preparing only for prelims. You are also not preparing only for mains. You are not also preparing for interview. You are actually preparing for many things to become someone who can understand the complex problems, who can evaluate the competing interest, who can make informed decision and design practical solutions. So you're not just preparing for the exam. Just don't think in that way. And that is what administrators do. And that is exactly what intelligent newspaper reading should help you to become. Everywhere it is going to be helpful. So that's about this session. And thank you so much. I see you in the next video. And if you're looking for any classes or mentorship, get in touch with our team. I see you there.